we are not to marry the one that we love. We are to love the one that we marry. You know that people in the Bible, their spouses were brought to them and they were told, oh, here's your spouse. And Isaac took Rebekah and loved her. They had never laid eyes on her before, but he took her and he loved her. Do you know that in the Middle East today that they have a different standard than what we have here? They don't have Nashville telling us that, oh, you got to have this oozy-goozy feeling. Those people over there, they know that life is hard, and they commit themselves to people, and they stay married. We are to love the one that we marry. Now, if there's not love, then there's going to be rebellion. Now, our wives will pick up on that, men, but you know what? The first ones that will pick up on it will be our children, especially those teenage children. Because our wives, isn't it wonderful how God made a wife? A wife, she does have in her to submit to a certain degree. And she will try and try and try and try. And some of you, I don't know you people up here, but there might be someone here tonight, you've just been a contrary old codger for years with your wife. And she has tried and tried and tried and tried, and she's been so good to you, and you just keep pushing her buttons and being mean to her. God is blessing you. God is blessing you. What if you wake up tomorrow and God takes her out of the picture? What are you going to do? Well, those children, they come along, and if there's no love, they will rebel. Especially when we begin to lay down rules. I saw an adage years ago, and I've taught on it many times through the years. It's not my adage, but I don't know whose it is, but it's truth. Truth that doesn't belong to any one person. But it basically says this, that rules without love rules without relationship equals rebellion. And if we have rules around our house and our children are just abiding by a bunch of rules and we don't have the relationships in there with our children, then they will rebel. See, the love is in the relationships. That's why someone says, well, what do you mean you're leaving your spouse and you're going to go off with someone else? Well, we're having a relationship. Well, why not? This is kind of a novel idea. But why not have a relationship with the one you're already married to? Just decide to do that. That's where it's at, is relationships. Or someone says, boy, your dad is so cool, or your mom is so nice, because there's good relationships there, and yet that teenager is looking thinking, you don't live with this person. Why not have that relationship with our own children? God is calling us. Love must reign. In a Christian home, love must reign. And we should develop these relationships. I want to just tell you about this. It needs to be deep in the heart. And the key to those relationships is not penalties, but blessings. We need to bless our children. Now, I know how it is. I'm a man, and especially when you get in those upper 40s. And I think, who was it? Frank and I talking about this this morning, that when you start getting a little older, I'm beginning to just get a little old. I'm not old at all. Just a little bit older, because I'll come home from work, and it's like, oh, I am so tired. I just want to sit down and take it easy. But in those relationships, it is so important that we keep those relationships. And what's sad is there's many a parent that fails to have that relationship when they have their own teenagers, and then they realize they're getting close to death, just like we do with a lot of things. We're getting close to death. Oh, I wish I'd done some things differently in life. So we reach out to those grandchildren, and one says, oh, those grandchildren are so wonderful. Well, you know what? Those children could have been wonderful too, if we were just as mature when we're raising our children as we become when we're grandparents. And have those relationships with those children. Relationships are important. Blessings are important, and not penalties. So often today, people will say to their children, you better do this or I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And there's a penalty there. There's a penalty. It's interesting that when Esau missed the blessing, and because Jacob has gotten the blessing. Remember how Esau went to his father? He didn't go to his father talking about, oh, I'm going to be cursed now. He went to his father and said, oh, Father, is there not a blessing for me? I just want a blessing. And that's what your children want. And your grandchildren want. They just want a blessing. I was thinking the other day about the prodigal. When he went off to the pig pen, what was it he remembered? When he looked back home, he remembered the blessing that was in the Father's house. And he wanted to go back where the blessing was. When Jacob was laying on his deathbed, he gathered all of his children around, and if anybody knew the shortcomings of those children, he did. But you know what? He began to bless them one by one. Our children need blessings. We need to bless them. Now, that's not to say that we don't have boundaries for them. I was wondering when Brother Noyes was saying before church tonight, Sunday school in the morning, I was thinking, okay, well, what am I going to teach on in the morning? Well, I know now because I'm not going to get through this message tonight. So I'm going to tell you guys in the Sunday school part tomorrow how that there have to be those boundaries. When we're talking about love, we are not talking about eradicating all boundaries. Because if you love someone, you're not going to let them go over the bluff. You're not going to let them walk into the house that's burning. You're going to establish some boundaries, but again, it all comes down to attitude. Someone says, boy, you're not preaching much Bible tonight. I'm talking about living a Jesus life. I'm talking about us looking at the Bible and seeing how Jesus lived his life. He was moved in everything he did by love. And he is our example. And we need that tonight to be self-sacrificial. And you know what? If we're going to have children, we had better be ready to sacrifice. I would not suggest that anybody have children unless you are ready to sacrifice because and by the way, you should have children because God wants us to have children, bring up the next generation. So get ready to sacrifice. There's too many today, though. They want to have children, but they're not ready to sacrifice. Listen, you're going to have children, and you're going to raise them right, and you're going to live for God and please the Lord and raise those children to be Christians and have a Christian home. You're going to sacrifice. And you know what? One of the things we need to sacrifice today is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whichever one it is, car that's in the house. You know? We spend way too much time trying to bring in all that extra money. Maybe it's the motorboat or the real nice four-wheeler or I don't know what you guys do in the city, but down there it's four-wheelers, horses, motorboats, lawnmowers, just all those little extra things that we want to get. And we have the 2nd income, the 3rd income, the 4th income. We need to sacrifice that instead of our children. The greatest thing we'll ever do is not drive a nice car or have a brand new four-wheeler. The greatest thing we'll ever do is spend time with children. When it comes time to die, we're not going to be saying to someone, oh, bring my four-wheeler by, I want to look at it one more time.